welcome back to my channel. Happy Father's Day to all the dads, and happy Father's Day to all the men who are providers and protectors and priests in their family and who just hold us down and make us feel more loved, more secure. Thank you for everything that you do. And today, in honor of Father's Day, I want to highlight some male authors from the Caribbean, seven men from the Caribbean who write about the Caribbean experience, but also who just make us feel loved by reading their literature. I want to highlight some of the accomplishments of Caribbean men. We have at least 2 male authors from the Caribbean who have won the Nobel Prize for Literature. We have at least 2 men from the Caribbean who have won the Booker Prize. I don't think we have any Pulitzer Prize winners, but we have men who have written books about our experience, and whether they have been widely acclaimed by the critics or just from reading their books, we want to give them prizes. So we're going to highlight some of those male authors in this video. So I hope you're here for that content, and stay tuned if you are. So we'll start with V.S. Naipaul's In a Free State, which won the Booker Prize. And this one is a collection of experiences that highlight the life of the immigrant, highlight the life of people who travel, people who move from one place to the next for various reasons. And I like that this is kind of open-ended. I like that we start aboard a ship and we end aboard a ship, and we see some of the various places that these travelers could be going to and the experiences that they could be having. This one is not specifically focused on the Caribbean experience. It is more on the universality of experiences that a Caribbean person may have, but that people from other places in the world also share. So I really enjoyed how V.S. Naipaul weaves in that experience with universality of life. And this won the Booker Prize in 1971, so a long time ago, but very timely. This is a book that you could read right now and still be a little transported by what you're reading. V.S. Naipaul was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2001, but this book, In a Free State, was a Booker Prize winner back in 1971. So Naipaul has an entire breadth of work that you can explore, and I highly recommend all his books. We just read A House for Mr. Bizwas by him for the RunwrightReads book club last month, and we still need to have a discussion about that book, but I have loved everything that I have read from this author, including his collection entitled Miguel Street, which is a collection of vignettes centered on this small place in Trinidad, but that show you just what life is like in urban communities. So highly recommend the writings of V.S. Naipaul. If you're new to reading from this author, definitely go check him out. The Nobel Prize says that he is an author to read. Then we have a more recent novel, God Loves Haiti by Dimitri Elias Leger. This is a Haitian author. This is focusing on experiences in Haiti, specifically around the earthquake that happened in 2010, where 200,000 plus people lost their lives almost instantly, but many more, their lives were changed. Some of them left homeless, but also just what the changes look like. So in this book, Leger writes very poetically about these characters. We learn a little bit about the lives that they were living prior to the earthquake and how things were shaken up, literally, for them. Not just the events of the earthquake, but also romantic relationships and family relationships and financial situations and political dynamics, how those things were changed by the earthquake. So, yes, there is the focus on the actual seismological shift, but there's so much more in the figurative shift of these characters' lives. And man, I just really enjoyed this book. I bought this one because we read it for the RunwrightReads book club, but highly recommend that you check this one out. Even if you don't have someone else to discuss this book with, chat with me about this book, because man, did I really enjoy this one. I have In the Castle of My Skin by George Lamming. George Lamming is from Barbados, and he wrote this autobiographical novel after he left Barbados and went to England to live. And it's a little bit about the coming of age, growing up in Barbados as a young boy, and what experience of boyhood looks like in the Caribbean. Some of it nostalgic, some of it maybe novelized, of course, but an experience that for anyone, I think, who grew up in the Caribbean, you could look at scenes in this book and say, yeah, I was there, I lived there. Is he writing about a place that I was at as well? So there are these mentions of the schoolhouse in the Caribbean, and man, it just feels, maybe it's a universal, but it just feels like a school that I went. It feels like a classroom that I was in when the inspector comes and the teacher is calling on the children to recite things. And some of it, I think when you're a child, you think it's absolutely useless. But as an adult, I still think 30 days had September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, except February alone, which has but 28 days clear and 29 in each leap year. So that little rhyme appears on the pages because, it's one of those things that the children have to recite. And also because this book was happening before Barbados was independent from England, there's a lot of mentions of how learning about the monarchy, learning about the queen was considered to be fundamental part of learning. The hymns that we sang, because religion was just such a big part of our experience in the Caribbean. So yeah, in The Castle of My Skin, George Lamming's autobiographical novel about his experience growing up in the Caribbean, but again, universal. George Lamming took the title for this novel, In the Castle of My Skin, from a poem that was written by Derek Walcott in his early writing. And so Derek Walcott is our next author. Omos by Derek Walcott is his Homer, the Caribbean Homer. And this book it's poetic. So it's written in verse like Homer's Odyssey. But we're focusing on the men. We're focusing on male characters in this fishing village in Derek Walcott's native St. Lucia, but also where they go, their relationship with the sea, how the sea provides them with the livelihood and provides them with the opportunity and the ability to feed their family and to serve their family and their communities, but also what the sea takes from them, because of course we always hear about these men. It's typically men. I'm sure there are women who are fishermen, fisherwomen. Fisherwomen means something different. I'm sure there are women who go out to fish as well, but this one really highlights the experience of men. And sometimes when they go out, they don't return. And what that means for the rest of their crew, what that means for their families, what that means for their communities when they're waiting for these men to return with provisions. They're waiting for the men to return with fish for them to eat, but also fish for them to sell and make money for the other necessities. And then these men don't come back. So it's about love, but it's also about life. So Omos by Derek Walcott. Derek Walcott is the other author, the other Caribbean author who has won the Nobel Prize for Literature. I just want to highlight his writings. His writing is very approachable because it is, this book especially, this book is very approachable because it is written in verse, like I said, and it may seem like it's easy to read. It really isn't, but it's also very rewarding to read and go through. So we read this for the RunwrightReads book club some time ago, and would recommend that you pick it up and check out Derek Walcott's Homer, Derek Walcott's Odyssey, Omos. But other authors from St. Lucia include Garth St. Omer. This is Nor Any Country. The author in this one writes about leaving St. Lucia and going to another country. In this case, he goes to Jamaica. And after a really long time away, after years away from home, he returns and almost expects life to have stopped waiting for him. So the relationships that he left, he expects to return and inhabit them exactly as he would like to. Not completely as though the years haven't passed, but as though the people haven't changed, or that the people have only changed in the ways that he wants them to. So this is one of those books that I think you kind of read and hate. You hate the characters, but you can also recognize the characters. This is one of those books that you could definitely sink your teeth into and then kind of bare your teeth while you're reading it, but also one that you probably would enjoy when you're done. And it's a very slim volume. So Garth St. Omer, nor any country. And we read this for the book club some months ago as well. We have Carol Phillips. This book, Crossing the River, I think was nominated for the Booker. Carol Phillips has been nominated for the Booker Prize. I'm not positive if this was the book that he was nominated for, but he is from St. Kitts in the Caribbean, and I think he now spends his time between England and the United States. I can't recall now all the titles that I have read from Carol Phillips, but I have really enjoyed his look on the experience of moving from the Caribbean to another country. Sometimes how it is liberating, but also what you give up in order to get that freedom to move. So Carol Phillips definitely writes about the Caribbean experience, but this one, Crossing the River, which we read for the book club maybe last year, is not about the Caribbean experience. Instead, in this one, we are focusing on a man who sells his children into slavery he's sacrificing them for the rest of the family, essentially. And as his children are traveling, what their different journeys look like, where they go and what they do, what their experiences mean for the family that they left behind involuntarily. This one includes a little bit of a look into the history of Liberia, but it also delves a little bit into the African American experience. And so yeah, Carol Phillips is one of those authors who gives you a little bit of the Caribbean life, but also just life in general. So definitely check out this author as well as one of the Caribbean male authors to read. And I could not round this out without mentioning Marlon James' epic A Brief History of 7 Killings, which won Marlon James the Booker Prize in 2015. And Marlon James is from Jamaica, but he lives in the United States now, and he writes lots of different kinds of books. His books are very intense. He writes in a way that you can't look away from the carnage that's happening, because his writing is just so immersive. Even if it is a life that you don't physically want to immerse into, you want to know what's going on. Every book that I have read from him has pulled me in to the point where I feel like I have to physically wrestle myself out of his fictional world. So A Brief History of 7 Killings focuses on an event in the 1970s, 1976. It is focusing on this attempted assassination of Bob Marley, but also what it means for the political forces that are happening, not just around the singer and around the music culture, but also around politics and just the life of everyday people in Jamaica. In the book club, we read the Book of Night Women, which focuses on the period of enslavement in Jamaica and what it looked like as people were trying to emancipate themselves. James also has other books that focuses on storytelling in Africa. So another one of those multi-talented, multifaceted writers coming from the Caribbean. So definitely check that out. And so these are 7 authors, 7 novelists that I would like to recommend to you from the Caribbean for Father's Day. But for a bonus, we also have a cookbook, Ziggy Marley and Family Cookbook. It is Father's Day, and I know that in a lot of ways, we want to celebrate the fathers by making them special meals. But one of the things that they started doing in Jamaica a few years ago, several years ago now, and I think they started doing it on Father's Day, was they had this program called Men Who Cook, and the men would actually make dishes, and it would be a big fundraising event because people want to go where men are cooking. Because in a lot of ways, women make most of the meals at home. So when the men make food, we get all excited. So the Ziggy Marley and Family Cookbook shows some of those Jamaican dishes. Like there is a recipe in here for Jamaican rice and peas, and I can't promise you that it's going to taste exactly like my grandmother's rice and peas, but it's a very approachable recipe. It shows things that you can use, like you don't have to go and break the coconut to get the coconut milk like my grandma used to do. This one tells you how to use the can of coconut milk. So very approachable book again, and this one was a gift from Akashic Books. I just want to say thank you to Akashic for giving me this beautiful copy, and I would love to share some of these recipes with you. So we'll do that in another video. So bonus and 7 other books by men from the Caribbean. So 7 Caribbean men and why you should read them. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you've read any of these authors and what you thought about these books. So let's chat in the comments. Happy Father's Day again, and until we come back for another video, happy reading. Bye.